Welcome to another episode of the Business of Coaching Workshop. We are passionate about helping make the world a stronger place. And this whole thing started with trying to help answer the two most common questions that I have been getting as we try to help people with the fulfillment side of their coaching practice and delivering high value coaching services in an efficient time manner, which were how do I get more clients and how much should I charge? And I wanted to invite you on the podcast because that seems to be an area of expertise that you work in, and also because you really caught my attention, obviously as being a sponsor at the Real Coaches Conference last April. But actually, even before I met, I remember just real quick story. Got there the night before, we set up the booth, Matt and I did, and then went back to the room with my swag bag. And I was like, well, I might as well take a look at what we got. And I opened up your book, the Heart-Centered Approach, and jumped straight into I guess it was the foreword. And this scene, for some reason, the way that the scene was painted in the book just uh was something so powerfully real that it caught my attention. And it was you describing working on your laptop in a park. I think you were living out of a trailer or an
A tent.
RV, a tent, holding your phone to try to get cell phone reception with one hand and the mic in your
Correct.
other hand, trying to work as you were uprooting your whole family from Alberta, Canada to the Cayman Islands on this just swing for the fences life change, which just felt so real and like such a cool story. And I had no idea that the next day I was going to go down and you were sitting there in the booth right next to me. So it was, um, I just think you have a really cool story, along with I think some things that would be really practical, useful to the coaches that are out there that we're trying to help. So yeah, I mean, excited to have you on, and I know I didn't give people the whole story of who you are, but maybe you want to just start out a little bit with your background and kind of what's brought you to where you are today.
Thanks, and that was much appreciated, buddy. And that story, it was funny. I was debating, should I go in the book or not go in the book?
Yeah.
The story of the campground thing. But one thing that I always tell everybody I meet for the first time is I'm from a farm in Alberta, and my town is 100 people. That's where I grew up 18 years of my life. We raised cows, chickens, horses, the whole nine yards. And I say I've read a lot of books over the years, but I learned life lessons in that approach and being in my life probably the most is living on a farm.
Mm.
And that allowed me to venture into fitness at 18 years old, from a town of 100 people into California when I was 18 with $100 in my pocket,
Wow.
pursue what scared the crap out of me, personal training with a warrior certificate, right, to go give it a go. And I went there for 9 months to Glendora and pursued my career and worked with clients under the table, hush hush, for the first year of my career at 18 years old. And that was 21 years ago. And that's where I began my journey as a very passionate person who just loved fitness as a trainer, for the first decade of my life as a personal trainer coach, and built six figures and just wanted to keep impacting more people. But it wasn't about money for me. It was more about how I was helping people.
Hmm.
And I loved learning, Andrew, and that led into working in natural bodybuilding, where I had a federation started as well in Canada. Um, with natural bodybuilding, we had ran 45 shows to a natural beverage company that we had that got into that in Walmart in our first year of business, which took me every nick and cranny to get that into Walmart, by the way. I used every ticket in the book to just other things that I'd ventured on in my life. And now the wife and the kids are in Grand Cayman and pursuing this wonderful other business called TRM. So, yeah.
And you in the book you also share a very vulnerable. I mean, the title alone to me strikes me as vulnerable in the fitness industry, especially, but a lot of egos and uh, you know, especially, bodybuilding in particular. It's a
Yeah.
lot of kind of hyper, I don't know, masculine is the right word, but just
Yeah.
kind of alpha type.
Yeah.
So to go out there with a title in itself, the heart-centered approach is, I think, vulnerable. But then you also shared early on this turning point in your life where you were hospitalized.
Correct.
And I mean, can you tell us a little bit about that, how
Yeah.
that came about and how that shifted your trajectory?
At 26, I had this, my jaw was the size of my ear on the side here. I couldn't move my jaw. In fact, I was almost like I couldn't talk, couldn't move, and actually had collapsed on the floor. And what happened was I was doing personal training. I was running a beverage company, running a bodybuilding federation, competing or trying to compete in bodybuilding all at the same time.
Mm,
Had no kids yet. And I'm an obsessive person, very passionate. I overworked myself where I burned out times 10. They took
mm,
me to the hospital. I was there for 3 days on IVs. I basically had burned the candles at so many ends that I had to stay and just recover just to get back to myself for 3 days. So that taught me a very valuable lesson of life and not balance. I don't like the word balance, more of how do I structure this different lifestyle that I have.
mm,
That was 26. I'm 40 now. So I went through many other journeys along the way. I actually didn't mention the book, but I went broke over twice, like dead broke, where I couldn't even buy groceries twice. So I've gone through having success and then having absolutely nothing and then actually in debt by 100 grand. So, and then digging out of a hole with nothing.
mm,
So I faced those circumstances and how to get through them. And I used heart-centered, Andrew, for that reason. Why you just said that?
mm,
Because I wanted to break a stigma that I feel called for. I'm Christian, so I'm faith-driven. So I felt that God was calling me to bring forth something to, especially the fitness world,
mm,
that there are a lot of egos, how you look, how many likes you have, how many followers you have, how many clients you got. I don't really care about any of that. And I really actually wanted to be bold with it. And I'm grateful you asked me to come on this podcast because part of the message of that was to show it is possible to build a business that you love and still go all in.
mm,
Be courage, be brave, be bold, do bold things in life, like move to ground came in with nothing, or make a bold move in life,
mhm,
and not look any less than who you are. So
mm,
to me, heart-centered is the other way around. It actually is, it's being bold and courageous. It's actually having, I'm going to use the word balls once in a while, but also telling the truth and shedding a tear here and there. And
mm.
leaning on a guy when you have to lean on a guy because you need your guy over there to give you a hand. So to me, when we're building businesses for coaches or helping them or sharing, how do you lead in coaches? And for example, a lot of our clients that come to us, Andrew, are bodybuilders with egos. I love
Mhm,
it
mm,
because they come with egos and they leave with impact because they actually make a 180 and they're like, well, I can actually build a business without having to show my skin all the time or prove I'm valuable or valid. So we show them how to do that. And it's actually a lot harder than just lead generation or marketing yourself. It's actually a different approach. So we take them through a year-long, 2 year-long process, and some can't do it and some can. It depends on the process they take.
For those that aren't familiar with heart-centered coaching, how do you define a heart-centered coaching business, and what distinguishes that from a traditional business model?
Mm. It's a way of coaching that resembles who you are in your coaching and not changing who you are for somebody else. So everyone has their own unique way of how they show up in the world in their business. And I'm not talking about beyond just fitness coaching. I'm talking about every coaching business. How you show up as a father, as a husband, as a wife, as a leader in your business. So heart-centered to me is about showing up authentically, and some aren't going to like it, and that's okay.
Mm,
But not stepping back and not shining in who you are because I I love people as people. Of course, I'm the kind of person that I built businesses before TRM that were built to please somebody else. And I realized that isn't heart-centered. So I learned this journey, the hard knock style, and then I was like, wait, God's calling me to put this in 2 years ago. And I hesitated. My daughter wrote a book before me. And I was like, what is going on? I've been out for a book for 5 years. And my wife's like, babe, write the darn book. Your daughter just wrote before you.
mm,
So I thanked Ram in the book because of him putting me on the stage, it propelled me to write something. And I felt I have to do this because it's not for the book and how many they buy, it's the message.
mm. When you're talking about core living by core values like
Mhm.
integrity and empathy, can you share a specific instance where defining those and adhering to them impacted a business decision or a client relationship where you consciously referred back to those core values to influence your
Ooh.
decision?
Okay, this is a good one. So I had these five core values in TRM for the first 3 years of my business. And I never really felt, and integrity actually was one of the core values, just so the traditional integrity, growth, the ones you hear with everybody else. And then October came around last year. We had a Cayman event, right? And one of our leaders, Alvin, did this meditation, and he had us do this thing. And so I always kind of share. I'm very vulnerable, Andrew. So I don't mean to just. I'm going to be real with you. And there was another individual there so it was one of our clients' husbands, and he actually is an entrepreneur for 20 some years. And we were at the table for 3 hours for dinner. And he's like, "What are your core values in TRM, Matthew?" And I shared the five. He's like, "I don't believe you." I was like, "What do you mean?" Those are called tabletop core values. Everyone's got them. What are they really? So he challenged me for 3 hours. And that was the most beautiful sit downs I had, I don't know how many years. And I changed the core value. It took me 2 months to figure them out. The core values, and I actually made a massive company change where I let some people go. I changed the structure of how we do business. I went back to how I wanted to conduct this business, not to please somebody else. And yeah, it resulted in people leaving, coming, going. But now the culture in TRM, oh my gosh, it's community driven. It's community driven. And I'm now showing up to work, to my business, to the vision, to my family, how I want to show up, even if it means someone else saying yes to a sale tomorrow,
Mm,
right? So heart-centered is about not doing it for the social post or that testimonial. It's doing it for you and then serving from your heart to help somebody else because you genuinely want to. And as a result, you'll get paid for that.
mm,
And you should be getting paid handsomely for that service. That's how it changed for me. So that now I have three core values, Andrew, and they're impact, heart-centered, and esprit de corps.
mm,
And I just found my ethos 2 weeks ago on the second event we had. And the ethos ended up being elevate. I just didn't even know what was even happening.
mm,
And there's a whole story behind this and a whole different conversation on what it means. And I'm still learning this as we go. I'm open to say, like, core values isn't just about putting the values in a book and a website. You've
mm.
got to live these darn things. And it's hard sometimes because you have to make a choice on your team. Is that person really in the right seat? I just changed roles 2 weeks ago in my whole company, and everyone's like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Yeah, it's not lining up to my core values." And now our productivity just 3x in 2 weeks, right?
Mm.
So, but it was very difficult conversations. I was sweating bullets. I was nervous. So that's heart-centered.
It's interesting that you include in your core values impact because I think the superficial interpretation of heart centered is this sort of like woo woo, touchy feely emotions and your heart, kind of the soft um, I- perspective, but you're still running a business, and in impact is obviously important to you. So how do you when you're talking to somebody who's like you're trying to get them to understand how addressing these kind of fundamental core values and they're not concrete, or they're less concrete at
Mm.
least than metrics that it's like, oh, okay, I can see this chart's going up and to the right, which lots of business people like to talk about, the likes and the follows and the P&L and sales and revenue. How do you balance profit and purpose?
When a coach comes and I know that their core values aren't right, I ask them, why are you doing this in the first place? And if they can't give me a good answer, I challenge them again.
Hmm.
Because you can grow a business on numbers. We all know that. We can go build six, seven, or eight figures, but all of a sudden that an entrepreneur loses their soul.
Hmm.
And now they're like, who am I again? Like, who am I, just a person on a shell building up a business that has no more impact anymore? No. That's why the third core value is esprit de corps. It's a military term from the Marine. And I do it because it means unity and strength and team. So it isn't about math, it's about the impact we make and how we multiply that. I'm just a vessel that God gave to do this. But if we do things in a heart-centered way, it means that is my integrity. That is my brave and courageous heart-centered, but that's the word that we use. And we do it to impact somebody like Andrew's podcast or your family or your business or your freedom. What gets me excited isn't just your revenue. It's you're on a vacation for with your wife, Andrew. Awesome. Your kids too. And you sent pictures to me and you're having a good time. Now I'm happy.
Mm.
That gets me excited.
Sort of like the means to the real end.
Correct.
Yeah. So moving a little bit more into maybe a tactical side
Hmm.
of building a seven-figure business or an eight-figure
Hmm.
business, what are you seeing as you work with fitness coaches that are the key components to scale to that size without sacrificing quality or their personal time or burning all the ends of the candle?
This will come across probably as a surprise on my answer. Your eyebrows might go up. It's not focusing on leads.
Hmm.
Now, what I say is you focus on the people in front of you because those people, if you treat them right and take care of them, will bring you the leads.
Hmm.
Most coaches are so focused on out there, they lose sight of what's inside. That isn't heart-centered. That's extrinsic growth. So they go and they spend tens of thousands of dollars on ads, bring all this, but all of a sudden their current churn rate is even worse than what it was. They've lost themselves. They're working 24/7 and they're complaining they're burnt out. Well, yeah, because you're focusing on that, not here. So slow down to speed up.
Man, I love that, and we'll take a shameless opportunity to plug Turnkey Coach with that because I've been trying to have this conversation, and I have not. I mean, I might have to steal those words because we often struggle with trying to articulate the value of doing exactly that. What if instead of spending all of your time building this massive sales and marketing machine, which understandably needs to be part of the business,
Of
but
course.
if you can cut your churn in half
Hmm.
and focus on delivering such a good product that your
Hmm.
customers stay longer, you can so much more effectively deploy your energy and your resources even into sales and marketing when you're not having to constantly onboard and manage a constant churn of new clients. And like you said, then they also have a better experience. And that's really from a fulfillment side, Turnkey Coaches sweet spot is that we're trying to create a platform that enables coaches to add as much value per unit time possible so that they can get their coaching done and build a relationship, a meaningful relationship as close as possible without having to be in the same place at the same time. Um, so man, that's music to my ears that as a sale or mostly the acquisition side of the funnel that I think that I mean I know you work in the fulfillment side as well and obviously did for a long time, but on that note, for those when once you do get them working and thinking about the sales and marketing side, can you tell me a little bit more about the TRM engine's role and how that supports a fitness professional? And I guess before I go in that, or as we're kind of moving in that direction, do you first work on somebody with their fulfillment side or looking at their churn before having them pour gas on the sales and marketing with something like the TRM engine?
We do, Andrew. Yeah, we do an assessment and
Mm.
find out. Obviously, this is obviously across the board. It's, on their metrics, their business, their current lead gen flow, their marketing avatar, their messaging, and also their mindset, their psychology, their family life. How many kids you got? Are you married?
Oh,
What's
wow.
your schedule look like? So we do a whole enchilada because those factors also affect an entrepreneur that people don't realize.
Hmm. So if somebody says is there like a churn number that is a red flag to you that maybe they
Hmm.
need to work on their service first?
Some coaches come in, they got churned at like over 10% and
Mm.
20% a month. And I'm like, this is crazy, but they want leads. I'm like, wait a second, slow
Yeah.
down. Let's get you down below five, 2 to
Okay.
5%, which should be,
Yep.
ideally what the goal should be.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then how does the TRM engine and the CRM platform support folks that are streamlining their sales and marketing side of the equation?
It's
If you want
more
to do some
on
shameless plugging for for TRM.
That's fine. It's more fulfillment is fulfillment, but more so on the aspect of the client journey. So we
Okay.
focus more on coaching as our main driver of the whole what we do, coaching, education, and of course, systems, but it's more processes, building better SOPs, building a better structure in their calendar, being able to, obviously do some systems that are CRM based, but looking at those things first, because that's the most
Mm,
important part. And also like how's their calendar and their boundaries? Because heart-centered is
mm.
also I use a concept called yes and no. And what that means is if you're saying yes to everything in your calendar, what are you saying no to?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So you can have great systems, but if you're still saying yes to 15 things and there should be five no's, you're still not optimizing your business. Hate to say it.
Mm, hmm. Do you have a success story? You don't have to name names, but like,
Right.
what does a before and after look like
Yeah.
using TRM methodologies?
We have a guy named Nick. I'll mention his last name. His name is Nick, and he's been in TRM for 4.5 years. A lot of our clients stay for years. He
Wow.
came in doing about 7 grand a month, and he came in just wanted to make 20 grand a month. But he has two children. He had a gym. Now he has two more gyms. He has his coaching business, which is basically online, primarily based business. And he had like him and one other coach in his team at 7K a month. But he was really working nonstop crazy, but he was putting his yeses everywhere. So we had to do a complete no audit and yes audit and then start to clean up his business. And again, he's a bodybuilder, right? So lead gen focused, ego in the room, NPC athlete, that kind of thing. And then 4.5 years later, he's hitting a reoccurring 70,000 a month with a team of four coaches. He has his three gyms now, working less hours, but he's still doing bigger, impactful things. He loves to go build stuff and grow stuff. But I'll tell you, that's just the gravy. In between, he had a lot of struggles
Mm,
because he tried to grow faster. He didn't listen sometimes. And he had to go back and let a coach go, okay, culture shift, change, go back and make some changes. So, yeah, that's the success, but I don't talk about the four things happen in between that he had to make a hard decision on that, he didn't follow the process, right?
mm.
I think that's where some people share success stories and don't share everything. They just share
Right.
what's good.
Yeah.
Like he's one of our ones that I'm real with. Like Nick went from here to here, but he also went through letting a few coaches go. He tried to, he stopped TRM for 6 months, and because of it, his revenue went down 15 grand, and he was back to 7 days a week again. Then he came back. He's like, Matt, I should never have because I made wrong. Yeah, because your boundaries got misaligned.
Mm,
So it kind of, I don't want to plug coaching, but whether you're coaching with turnkey, TRM, whoever that is everyone, I believe, should have some accountability in that process, whatever you're
mm,
looking at, right? Have the system, whether it's turnkey or whatever you're using in your business. And just to keep that guide, because if you have that support, that 10,000 foot viewer, they can at least direct that ship that you're on so you don't make course corrections.
mm. What do you see in the people that are successful that are common keys,
Mm.
critical factors? People, are there behavior patterns or their personality traits, or like what are the kind of conditions that are ripe for success working with TRM?
Number one is consistent.
Mm,
Number two is they are very coachable. Three is they play a long game, not short game. And they usually don't come in TRM and hit the ground running super fast. They usually grow their business 2, 3x over 6 months, but it's very sustainable. And they're also gaining time back in that process. So we don't usually always measure time as money, but we usually use it as a
mm,
factor. That's factors we've in working with a lot of coaches over the years. And I'll be honest, I like more of the mature coaches, Andrew, who've got a family. That's kind of our,
mm,
our clientele. I'm not really, the beginner coaches are great. We serve them, but we don't focus on them really at all. Um, we focus more on only onboarding 5 or 7 new people a month. It's very
mm,
honest. So we don't look for volume. We're looking for a quality experience, retaining the clients, serving them, and keep building off of that.
mm. You have mentioned, and TRM is known for community.
Mhm.
I imagine part of that is because of exactly that strategy. Can you speak a little bit more about the strategies or what that's like to build and sustain or be part of that community?
Oh, and that's a really good question. There's a okay. So with community is a few things. Communities can see your baloney
Mm,
and they can see where your head is at. Are you caring about them or your numbers? And there's a reason we attract A players and we keep A players, even on my team. And I'm proud of this because I don't make it about me, it's about the team. And communities want to feel like they're recognized, they're significant, they can contribute, and you're also giving them a chance where they can grow and shine,
mm,
right? And they want to feel that they're a part where they can be vulnerable and they can be real and not be judged. That's why we don't intake tons of clients a month.
mm,
Because my community, I go more for long game. I'm looking at the 10-year plan, not the 1 year 10x right now, which is fine. Because I know the people that come in, they're multipliers. They're 10xing. So whatever, Andrew, for example, say you come in TRM, I'm just using it as an example, and your whatever company grows over the years, I know Andrew's going to go impact his family, his wife, his kids, his clients, his businesses. That's in my mind. So if you can be a vessel of impact in a heart-centered way, that means we're multiplying.
mm. That's awesome. That's, I mean, we talk a lot with our strength and nutrition clients to focus on the process, and we kind of use PRs as it's a hook early on in training. But to be successful with your training over a long period of time, eventually you have to stop paying attention or focusing
Mhm.
on the PRs, the metrics, and find some sort of meaning in the process. And then, but the funny thing about shifting that mindset is by doing that, the PRs continue.
Yeah,
It seems like there's a lot of interesting parallels there where you're focused more on the process of creating a meaningful community where people can grow and that impact become it's like a force multiplication effect that everybody gets to be a part of, and then as a result of that the company continues to grow as well.
exactly.
That's really cool.
100%.
So you mentioned a 10-year vision as we're kind of getting towards the end of our time. What do you see as like do you would you be able to share kind of where you
Of
see
course. Of
things
course.
going in the future?
I would love to. And, our aim is 10,000 coaches to impact in the next 10 years. And I have no idea how I'm going to do that yet, to be totally honest. I have no idea.
Those are the best goals.
But exactly. And I look at it at one client at a time. So as long as we keep our culture strong and we hit, and to me, it's not about reaching a number, it's the impact that will come when that number is reached. So it's more of just the
Mm,
target. That's all it
hmm.
is,
Right.
right? So when I see the 10,000, I see, well, that's going to mean we're at 10,000 coaches, whether they were in TM the first year or the 10th year, who now have more time with their family, who can now impact 100 more of their clients, who are making a difference in the world. So I feel like I'm a vessel to that goal to make a difference in a heart-centered way. So we don't see as coaches online getting divorced, committing suicide, doing these bad things, like I know it sounds negative, but I'm being real about what's happening in life now with the fitness industry because I've been in it for 21 years. So I have an obligation to help reach a goal, and that might take me longer than 10 years to serve in a way that these people can have a life with their business.
Mm. Is there I like to include in these something small, we call it a workshop, and we got feedback that people like to get homework assignment from these. Like, so is there like a teaser to the method that you would offer to the audience as a homework assignment that would kind of move them in the direction or get a sense of the kinds of things that they would do more of working with TRM?
Hmm. Well, there's a few. I'll just give one very basic one for now to get the ball rolling. And I
Hmm.
mentioned the yes and no, Andrew.
Okay.
So I would say there's a technique we call the sphere of focus in TRM. It's a 90-day thing where you have these three circles. Okay. So what you're doing is the yes and no falls in this. Your three circles, you have your three do's, your three don'ts, and your three delegate systemizes over here. Okay. So in 90 days, you would write down what are my three maximum do's, my three don't do's. Those are my no's. So you have your yeses, you have your no's.
Mhm.
And your three, maybe you'll delegate or systemize. And I'm only up to one thing, right? And that's sphere of focus is I believe in the book, I believe as well, but it gives you a chance to focus on the fewer things that will make the impact in what you want to do in those 3 months of your business.
That's awesome. Any last things you want to plug or put out to the audience? Where can people find you? What's the best place to learn more or get engaged with TRM or Mathew Park?
My Instagram is official Mathew Park with one T, or Instagram is trainer revenue multiplier. That's where you can find me online at the website. I just want to plug you, man, Andrew. First off, I want to plug you because when I first came to the event, it was my first time actually at the summit, and Isaac was already there. And he mentioned that he spoke to somebody, it was a booth beside us. This great guy, and actually was you.
Mm.
And I walked in, you had this smile and this welcoming energy, and I was like, this guy's cool. And you mentioned the book, and I was like, that instant connection drew me into like this guy truly cares, and
Mm.
you're an important whatever company you work, obviously you're a turnkey coach, but you're an asset, not only with a business but also in life. And it was a pleasure to meet you because I wish more people would be like that in events because many don't do that. They're in their corner doing their thing, and I just really had a connection with you, and I appreciate that openness, Andrew.
Oh, thank you. I also had a similar impression. You know, first time at the Real Coaches Conference, and I was really impressed with the people there. I think the percentage of people that seemed like they genuinely cared was very high for a fitness event, and really, it's been cool to get to know Aram more and the people in that community. But yeah, it was a great way to start the weekend, and really appreciate the connection and the plug. Um, Also, for anybody listening, my job is also to plug. If somebody is interested in learning more about Turnkey Coach, to check out turnkey.coach/BOC call for a disco call if you want to learn more about how Turnkey Coach can help. And thank you again, Matthew. Appreciate it. Hope we can stay in touch and see you again. Are you planning on going to Real Coaches next year?
You bet, I'll be there, man.
Excellent. I'll see you there then.